Hello, and welcome to Drag Race Rejudged, where today I will be making my first rejudging video in 14 videos and almost a full calendar year. There is a slight chance I may need to rethink my name. Before I get into the video, there's two things I want to go over. Number one, the judging on All Stars 10 started off pretty fair and got progressively worse as the season went on, so Bracket 1 is not going to have any major changes, but Brackets 2, 3, and the merge will all have significant changes, so please bear with me. Number two, the point system I will be using is different here. While I did enjoy having them on the real show, I will not be able to accurately assign MVQ points, so the only points given out this season will be based on that specific week's challenge. The new system I will be using is as follows. Every week is going to have a top 2 that receive 2 points each, with the lip sync winner getting an extra point. I will also give out extra points / high placements as needed. Some challenges will have just one high queen and some will have multiple. Outside of that, there will be no extra points, and I have a new system if there's a tie in the points, but more on that later. Episode 1 is the Heavy Metal Girl Group Challenge, where I think production got things mostly right. Phoenix had one of the strongest performance looks, but she also had the weakest verse in performance, so I'll put her as safe. Olivia Lux was better than people give her credit for, but I don't think she really shined in this girl group challenge the way she did in Congratulations on season 13. Just like Phoenix, she will be safe. Deja Skye did an all-around fun job this week. I don't know why, but I just did not expect her to do as well here as she did. The runway could have used a bit more refinement, but I like the vision, so I will give Deja an extra point. Even though she didn't have the best verse of the night, Bosco's performance was really memorable for me. She didn't perfectly fit the theme, but her runway more than made up for it, so I'm gonna give Bosco an extra point as well. That is going to leave us with the pretty obvious top 2 of Irene and Aja. Aja unsurprisingly had the best written verse of the night, and if you go back to the performance and watch her in the background, she was in full character the entire time. My only remotely negative comment, and I fully blame production here, is that all of Aja's Pokemon-themed looks aired in one episode. I think what production should have done was swap the categories on episodes 1 and 2, but once again, very nitpicky. Irene the Alien had my favorite individual line in the night, from Valhalla to the Hall of Fame, and her vocal / delivery were spot on. This was just a night and day improvement over season 15. Aja and Irene lip sync, Aja completely dominates and earns an extra point, and we can move on to episode 2. Episode 2 is the True Crime Improv Challenge, and I'm gonna speed through it since production was spot on. Prior to rewatching the challenge for this video, I couldn't remember anything specific Aja or Phoenix did or said, so I'm gonna place them both as safe. When I originally watched the challenge a few months ago, I vividly remember laughing at something Olivia Lux said, but I cannot for the life of me remember what it was. With that in mind, she is safe. Deja is a clear third, her physical comedy was great, and if she was somehow transported into the Bracket 3 Improv Challenge, I think she has a pretty clear shot at winning. With that in mind, I will be giving her the extra point of the week. The top 2, once again, unsurprisingly, are Bosco and Irene. Bosco's Elvira runway was perfect, and she killed the comedy aspect of the challenge. Irene's Alien runway was really well executed, and she absolutely dominated the acting part of the challenge. Bosco and Irene lip sync, Bosco crushes it, earns the extra point, and we can move on to episode 3. Episode 3 is the Makeover, where we got the fairest makeover judging I've ever seen. Deja and Phoenix were both fine in the runway and the performance. Neither one of them had any real flaws, they just got overshadowed, so both queens will play safe, totaling out at 2 and 0 points respectively. While I generally do not love the costumey critique production gives out, I do kind of see it with Aja. The outfits were amazing, but the wings did look incredibly cheap. That said, she had the strongest verse of the night and will get an extra point, putting her total at 4. Olivia Lux had a really unique concept that I cannot believe we have never seen before. As far as the runways, she was dead even with Bosco and Irene, but since they were both stronger in the performance, the best I can do is give her an extra point, putting her at a total of 1. The top 2 for this challenge are Bosco and Irene, and I don't really feel much need to defend it. Bosco had one of the most interesting makeover presentations we've ever seen, and Irene took a huge risk bringing such a fitted look from home, but it 100% paid off. Bosco and Irene lip sync, Irene gets her first lip sync win, putting her total at 7 points, and Bosco's at 6. Since there is no tie in the points, Bosco, Aja, and Irene will all be moving on to the merge, and we will be moving on to Bracket 2. Starting off bracket 2 is the design challenge, where I once again have literally no changes. Nicole's look was fine, it just needed to be a bit bigger. Carrie's look was fine, it just needed a bit more styling. And George's look was good, definitely the best she's ever made, but I don't think I can justify giving her a point for it compared to Mistress, Lydia, and Tina. All three queens will be safe. Moving on to our top 3, Mistress had the second best look of the night, but I feel like she really struggled to fit the prompt compared to Lydia and especially Tina. This was a challenge about using all 8 materials, and she took 3 materials and only used them on a purse which looked like a really badly made afterthought. I am going to give her an extra point here because of the full look she designed, but that purse was definitely her outer saboteur. Next up is Lydia, and I absolutely love her look here. I completely understand that this sounds like a bit, but I am a sucker for anything pink, green, black, and white, so this look just really popped for me. Lydia also highlighted exactly how you make a purse with extra materials without throwing a bunch of stuff into a cauldron and calling it a day. Then finally, Tina Burner absolutely crushed this challenge. While she did end up picking what is probably the easiest material package to work with, she was able to spin really high quality straw into gold. If you had told me at the start of the season that Tina Burner would have the best design look of the season over Mistress, Daya, and Acid, I would not have believed you, but my god, she pulled it off. Lydia and Tina are the top 2, they lip-synced Love Sensation, Lydia wins, and we move on to our first big change of the season. Episode 5 is the rapping roast, and I've gone back and forth on how to judge this many times, but I ultimately decided to give the ultimate cop-out answer. Literally every single queen on the cast deserves to be at least high for this week. Carrie Colby had by far the best performance, flow, and energy of the night. She just forgot to roast specific people. My original theory was that she had a pre-written verse and wanted to make it work, but now that we're a few weeks out, I think she just wanted to do something really unique, and it didn't really pan out. Tina Burner did a good job overall, but while I originally thought production was just being crazy, watching her performance back, there are a few lines that were completely unintelligible. She had some funny lines and her delivery was good, but when everyone is great, you do kinda have to split hairs. Nicole Paige Brooks probably had the best part of the song sonically. I'm not smart enough to understand on a technical sense what made her cadence work so well for this song, but it did. This was by far her best week in the competition in both challenge and personality. The only downside is her performance. The look was great, but she wasn't really performing compared to the other cast members. Lydia Collins had a good performance, and by far my favorite runway of the night. Rhyming Burner with Kerner was good, so was Carrie being the Tamar to Sasha's Tony, and her roast for Georges was funny too. The main downside to Lydia's performance was her roasts for Mistress and Nicole. At a few points, it did kind of feel like she was going for what would be the best rhyme over what would be the funniest roast. Next is Georges, who had a great performance across the board, although I do see the argument that she was over-dancing a bit. Outside of that, she is the only person without a single weak point in her roast. Most people had at least one joke miss for me, but Georges was able to hit a solid 9 out of 10 and stay there for the full performance. Mistress Isabel Brooks was my personal overall favorite. Her weakest roast was calling herself the Iron Woman in Carrie Tranos, but even then that's pretty creative. She had the strongest line of the night with Georges' non-existent GED. With all of this in mind, I will keep the original top 2 of Mistress and Georges, just with a Georges solo win. That said, this episode doesn't really matter much since everyone is getting at least a point. Next up for episode 6 is Star Booty the Rusical. This is a challenge that has very much grown on me over time, but I kind of expected better out of production given the recent caliber of Rusicals. This challenge felt both way too short and way too RuPaul focused. In terms of judging though, I think we have a pretty clear top 3 and bottom 3. Nicole and Mistress were not bad per se, they just got massively outshined. Nicole's runway was simultaneously the second best and worst of the week, and she struggled with dancing compared to Carrie and Tina. Then for Mistress, while her runway was good, it had a very similar silhouette to what she wore several times on season 15. Then for the challenge, I kind of feel like she screwed herself. She wanted so badly to be on a team with her villains that she put herself in between 2 of the strongest dancers the show has ever seen in a Rusical. All that said, both queens are safe. Next up is Tina Burner, who was good not great. A very common thing with the Drag Race fandom is that they will overcompensate when production gives a bad critique. Michelle's critique about Tina doing everything they wanted and it still not being good enough was insane, insane, but that does not mean that Tina had some amazing win-worthy week. She will also be safe. The top 3 queens for the challenge are Lydia, Jorgeous, and Carrie. Carrie Colby didn't just have the strongest characterization of anyone, she was the only person whose characterization I remembered before rewatching the challenge for this video. Jorgeous has always been an incredible dancer, and I think her characterization has gotten better with every progressive musical she's done. Lydia Collins is also an amazing dancer, and I think she was really able to shine this week compared to season 17, where she kind of faded into the background. I will also take the time to throw in here that she had my personal favorite runway of the season. With all this in mind, the top 2 for this challenge are Carrie and Lydia. They lip-sync to Texas Hold'em, and while I think Carrie does put up a pretty good fight here, Lydia is gonna take it for me. Carrie's a good performer, but Lydia had a really underrated job this week. Looking at the scoreboard, Lydia has 7 points and Jorgeous has 4 points, so both will move on. We now have a tiebreaker between Tina, Carrie, and Mistress, who all have 1 safe, 1 high, 1 top 2, and 3 total points. The first tiebreaker is which queen was the best of the tied queens in the most challenges. Tina was the best in the design challenge, Mistress was the best in the roast, and Carrie was the best in the musical, so that doesn't really help me out. The second tiebreaker is which queen was second best in the most challenges. Mistress was the second best in the design challenge, Tina was second best in the roast, and she was also second best in the musical, so Tina Burner will be moving on to the merge. Moving on to bracket 3, we are starting off with a slightly different version of the Wicked Design Challenge. Instead of the challenge being weighted 50-50 between the actual sewing and the comedy aspect, this challenge will be weighted like 80-20. I don't want to take away from how difficult comedy is, but sewing an entire garment and writing a minute-long script are not equal tasks. The safe team will be Alyssa and Cynthia. Cynthia had a really fun runway presentation, but the cardboard petals around her neck, as well as the lack of detailing on the bottom half of her dress, really dragged the design aspect down. Alyssa Hunter had one of the strongest looks of the night, but I will say that it was on the verge of having too much going on. I still really liked it though. The main thing dragging both of them down is the story. It was not that bad, it was just the clear weakest, and only kind of worked because of Cynthia's personality. Now we have the high teams, which are Denali and Acid, and then Ginger and Daya. Ginger was great in the story department, but the look was probably second or third worst of the night. I love Ginger, but I do have to acknowledge how she had this exact same challenge before on All-Star 6, and while her comedy was better now, I do have to say that she had a much better made look 3 years ago. Denali did a generally nice job across the board, but Acid blew her out of the water in the design department, and her doing another ice look wasn't particularly outside the box. Then we have Acid, who absolutely killed it. The story was good, the look was well made, and she was able to do something somewhat outside the box for herself while still incorporating the style of wig she usually uses. Then finally we have Daya, who was the clear best this week. Her look was the most witchy, her and Ginger had the best story, and she had the cleanest made look of the night. With all of this in mind, the groups end up pretty much even, so the top 2 will be the best queens of each group, which are Daya and Acid, while Denali and Ginger both get 1 point. Daya's lip sync was great and beats anyone but Ginger, so she will be winning the extra point. Next is episode 8, which was the Country Girl Group Challenge. I am not gonna name names, but I watched this challenge before writing the script for this video, and by the time I had made it to this point in the script, there were multiple queens I had completely forgotten. The safe queens for this challenge will be Daya, Acid, and Alyssa. Alyssa's performance was okay, I just didn't love her verse or characterization compared to the rest of the cast. Daya's performance was good, it just did not stick out to me at all. In the moment when I'm watching it, it's really fun and enjoyable, but I literally watched it less than 5 minutes ago, and the only thing I remember was Betty Does Bite, which is literally the ending line of her verse. Acid's performance is the clear best of the 3, but it's really reliant on a reference. It's definitely a good reference, and her runway was great, but not good enough to justify getting an extra point compared to the top 3. Ginger's energy and vibes really hit the nail on the head for this type of challenge, and then for runway, she did a great job of finding a Miley look that fits really well within Ginger's aesthetic. Denali's dancing was by far the best, I could not take my eyes off of her. I also really liked her runway. As someone who isn't that aware of Miley's looks, I liked getting to see one that I actually recognized, although to be fair, I also recognized Alyssa. says. Then finally, Cynthia had the best vocals of the night. I knew she could sing, but I don't think I was fully aware of it until this challenge, if that makes sense. Her runway was not the strongest, but runways are tiebreakers for me, and Cynthia was the clear best of the night. With all this in mind, the top 2 queens of the week are Denali and Cynthia. You could definitely make an argument for Ginger beating Denali based on a blatantly rigged edit, but Denali is going to clear Cynthia and win this lip sync. Moving on, we have the dog dating show, which is probably the most uncomfortable challenge I have seen in recent Drag Race. I also want to make it known that I rejudged this specific challenge like 8 different times, and I'm unfortunately very likely in the top 1% of viewers for this train wreck of a challenge. Starting things off, Ginger is top 2 no matter what. She is the only queen who did good. The first safe queen is Alyssa Hunter. Her runway was good, and I enjoyed the visual gag of all those puppies, but outside of that, I don't think her performance had a single joke. The next safe queen is Daya. She was not unfunny per se, but she just did not have much characterization that set her apart from being Daya Betty in a dog costume. That leaves us with Acid, Cynthia, and Denali, who are the 3 non-ginger queens who I think actively did well. There will be 2 highs and 1 top 2 out of the 3 of them. Cynthia was hilarious. I think she was the funniest consistently out of the 3, but the main thing working against her is the runway. While she was my clear favorite of the 3 in the challenge, I did say that runways are tiebreakers, so that could cost her the win. Moving on, I don't know what everyone else saw that I didn't, but Acid was not funny at all. The main things that put her as high for me are her amazing runway and characterization. Even if I didn't personally find her funny, she had great characterization and fully fleshed out her role. Denali was just fun. She had my favorite runway of the night, and I think she had the clearest grasp on what she needed to do with her character outside of Ginger, even if production ended up disagreeing. Based on all of this, the top 2 are going to be Ginger and Denali. This time they will lip sync to Mama Used to Say, and I think Ginger deservingly wins this one. The current tally of points is Denali at 6, Ginger at 5, and then a 3-way tie of Daya, Acid, and Cynthia at 3. The first tiebreaker is which queen was the best of the tied queens in the most challenges. Daya was the best in the design challenge, Cynthia was the best in girl groups, and then of the 3, I feel that Cynthia was the strongest in the improv challenge. Her runway could definitely stop her from getting a win, but it is not going to cost her the tiebreaker. This means we have a final 9 of Aja, Bosco, Irene, Lydia, Georges, Tina, Denali, Ginger, and Cynthia. We have now arrived at the merge, and our first challenge is the Snatch Game, where things will get slightly difficult because we don't know who or how Tina or Denali would have done. Both queens have historically done pretty well in improv challenges, and I haven't seen any evidence to suggest this has changed. I will put both of them as safe alongside Irene to keep things as fair as possible. The top 3 for this challenge are going to be Ginger, Georges, and Bosco. Starting with Bosco, not only was her runway a very cool interpretation of the suit theme, I am a sucker for any kind of Cher impression, no matter how minimal. It does not matter if it is Chad Michaels or Maya Iman LePage. That singular joke puts her in the top for me. Next is Georges, who gave her all-time best Snatch Game. The devil look was great, but the most impressive thing for me was how well she did. With an impersonation like this, it's very easy to end up in a position where people are laughing at you, not with you, and I think this performance really highlights her growth over the last 3 years. Then with Ginger, I don't really have much to say. Her runway was good, and her performance was the clear best. There's definitely more that could be said, but I'm gonna leave it at Ginger having done a good job and getting the win. Now for the bottom 3, we have Aja, Lydia, and Cynthia, just like the original season minus Mistress. Starting us off, Aja was not that bad. I just expected a lot more of her given how her Crystal of Beja went. Then for Cynthia, I think she spent most of the Snatch Game walking the very fine line between self-aware cringe and just regular cringe, but kinda went off the rails at the end. Then finally, Lydia Collins was for me towards the top based on her performance, but as people pointed out to me a few weeks ago, she has since said she completely bombed the challenge and production just gave her a very favorable edit. Aja is going to be saved by her runway, then Lydia and Cynthia will lip sync to the actual version of Who's Zoomin' Who. Since this is a more dancey version than the original, Lydia wins and Cynthia is sent home in 10th place for a 3rd time. Our final merge challenge is the talent show. Once again, we don't know exactly how Denali and Tina would have done, but we do know what Denali would have done. one. A few weeks ago, she tweeted out that she was going to do one of her ice skating numbers but with roller skates, so here's how I think the judging plays out. Starting us off, Bosco gets the win. The runway was perfect, the comedic timing was perfect, the delivery was perfect. This was my second favorite burlesque performance the show has ever had, but more on first place later. Next is Denali, who will also get a win here. Her runways were really strong this season, and assuming her ice skating talent translates even remotely to roller skating, she would have torn that stage up. The two high queens here will be Aja and Ginger. Both of them set a really high bar for themselves in the past and fully delivered. Aja went in a completely different but equally great direction, while Ginger went in a fully realized direction, and it paid off for both of them. The safe queens here will be Jorgeous and Irene. Jorgeous' dancing was great, and adding in comedy was a smart move to set her performance apart from All Stars 9. Irene's performance was also great, and I will also add in that adding in comedy was a very smart move to improve from season 15. That leaves us with a bottom two of Tina and Lydia. Lydia was fine, but when you're this far into the season and everyone is doing this well, every little mistake counts. I don't think Tina has said what she would have done, but I can't envision a universe where she is outperforming Irene and Jorgeous, so they will be the bottom two. On the original season, Mistress and Lydia were like dead even to guess, but Tina is getting absolutely steamrolled by Lydia for the second time this season. Now that we're at our final 7, it's time to talk returning queens. I watched this season alongside 2 of my friends, so I figured the fairest thing to do here would be for all of us to pick one person and then spin a wheel. Number 1, my pick is Deja. I don't think putting her in that group was a setup, but I think she was underappreciated by the judges all season, and I think she would have had a clear shot at winning the Group 3 design and improv challenges. Number 2, my friend Nyx's pick was Cynthia. Her reasoning was, and I quote, "Even though she didn't do the best in every challenge, she was hilarious in The Golden Bachelor, and she had a genuinely positive and good energy towards other people that I think deserved a second chance." Then number 3, my friend who I'll call anime profile picture person, was Mistress. The reasoning was, and I quote, "I don't know, I just wasn't a huge fan of most of the queens that got elimed." The Wheel of Random Chance is spoken, and the returning queen will be Deja Skye. I originally wanted to do my own Rate a Queen here, but to try and avoid controversy, I will be picking the matchups by random chance based on the originally assigned song order. Round 1 is Disease, and our 2 queens will be Ginger and Deja Skye. If Carrie had been the returning queen here, I think she maybe has the track record to possibly take out Ginger. Deja, unfortunately, does not. She would put up a great fight, but I think Ginger narrowly takes this one home through both skill and track record. Round 2 is Joyride, and our 2 queens will be Lydia and Denali. I have no idea who takes this, and I couldn't do a poll without revealing a ton about the rejudging, but since Denali and Lydia are such great dancers, and I did want to throw in one double save, I will be giving this the double save, although if I had to pick one, it would be Denali based on track record. Now for round 3, we have Party Lights, and our 2 queens will be Aja and Jorgeous. I swear to God, this was just a random chance. The universe just really wanted this to happen. I definitely considered giving this my double save, but I do think Jorgeous won 60-40 to me and had a clearly better track record. Aja did well here and maybe could have won with the full track, but lip syncs are shorter and she took too long to build up momentum and fully take off her nun outfit. Round 4 is Show Me How You Burlesque, and our 2 queens will be Bosco and Irene. Do I need to say it? Moving on, since Ginger, Jorgeous, and Bosco all won their lip syncs outright, I will be picking one of them to move on to the final 3 without performing. I'm gonna choose Bosco since she had the strongest track record on the season and the strongest performance in the first round. Round 5 is Raise Your Glass, and our 2 queens will be Lydia and Denali. This would be an incredible show and a great rematch, but I just can't justify getting rid of Denali even if I didn't get to see her perform in the full lip sync for the crown. Denali wins a nail biter and moves on to the final lip sync. Round 6 is Wherever Whenever, and our 2 queens will be Jorgeous and Ginger. I love Ginger, and I don't think she deserves any of the hate she gets, but based on lip sync skills, her winning a lip sync for the crown requires a very specific set of circumstances that simply does not happen without Rate a Queen and the queens choosing their own songs. Jorgeous wins and moves on to the final 3. Our final set of finalists for the season are Bosco, Denali, and Jorgeous, but really any combination of them plus Ginger/Lydia could have made it through a lip sync for the crown and been fair. Looking at track records, Denali has 3 wins, a high and a safe, Jorgeous has 1 win, 2 highs and 2 safes, then Bosco has 3 wins and 2 highs. I think any one of them could win, but I'm gonna make the argument for all three. Denali was mistreated on her first run, gave one of the most iconic performances of the season, showed no weakness even where she struggled on season 13, and would give a killer lip sync to its reigning man. Rejudged showed massive growth between season 14 and All-Stars 9, but that's expected of an All-Star. Showing massive growth between All-Stars 9 and All-Stars 10 is beyond impressive and would fully justify a Rejudged win, especially with a great final lip sync. Now finally, Bosco is probably not winning a lip sync to its reigning men against the other two queens, but she showed so much personal growth, so much improvement in the challenges, and would be a huge fan favorite in this timeline just like on the original season. So for me, based off how well she did on the season, I think that if the fanbase could justify Jimbo and Jinx winning, we could also very easily justify a Bosco win. In the end, my winner is that I don't know. Of the three, I think I'd either crown Denali if she eats the final lip sync, or Bosco if she holds her own. Please let your voices be heard in the comments, because I genuinely don't know who to say. I'm thinking I'm Team Bosco, but I'm also not delusional enough to say that there is a significant chance she gets absolutely curb stomped in the final lip sync, and Denali/Rejudged would be well deserving of walking away with a crown.
Do you want non-Emmy nominated gay shit? Well then you should check out the RuPaul's Drag Race Rejudged YouTube channel and hit subscribe.